Hey, Dr. Jasser, we're going to talk about Grammy fashion. No. Joining us now, the founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, also the author of A Battle for the Soul of Islam, an American Muslim patriot's fight to save his faith. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Jasser. Hey, Doc, just a real quick question before I get started, just some inside local knowledge on Islam or Muslim. I had a woman call in earlier. We were talking about the fact that there were a bunch of marriages on the Grammys last night. And I said I found it odd that anybody, be they gay or straight, wanted to get married on a TV show. It seemed to be an odd choice. But somebody said, well, I think they should go get married. And they were talking about the couple, some gay, some straight, at their church, at their synagogue, or at their mosque. If two gay guys or two gay gals went into a mosque and asked to be married, it's trouble, right?
Oh, I can tell you right now that the ratio of mosques which would accept that marriage is probably like 1 in 3,000. There's a couple mosques that do it, but and some imams that have stuck their neck out. But anyone who knows about those types of things regarding Sharia, the tolerance is very minimal to none, and it's certainly as far as our faith is concerned, it's we have the same gamut as Christianity and Judaism and beliefs about homosexual marriage, but it is in Iran they push homosexuals off the cliff.
Right. So to put it, distill it down for gay couples thinking going to the mosque to get married, the key phrase: sticking your neck out. Sticking your neck out.
Yep.
You can follow Dr. Jasser on Twitter at Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Well, Doc, the thing that everybody's thinking about now, and I don't know the Chechen Muslims, is sort of like a Din Timor Muslims, distaff group to me. Tell me about them. Is it going to be dangerous at these Sochi Olympics?
Well, before Syria became the world's global jihadist source, Chechnya was always, the past few years, one of the biggest sources of threats. And the weird confluence that's happening now, and it's actually not that weird, it's to be expected with what Russia's been doing in Iran and Syria. Zawahiri, the Al-Qaeda the Al-Qaeda leader, has put out saying that he honors and hopes that the Chechen rebels do something. And so basically you have this confluence between Chechnya, Al-Qaeda, number of Islamists. You have the conflict in Syria, basically Russia taking the side of Iran and Hezbollah. So there's no doubt it's very well justified for us to have the highest concern we've had maybe since Munich, if not since the 80 Olympics, when there was a boycott at the time. And, the policies, we've had a vacuum there, and Russia's method of dealing with Chechen militancy has been, if anything, just like Syria, it fuels the radicals. And I hope we don't end up handing over technology to them that they're asking for. We just need to send more security and protect our guys, our citizens there watching the games, and keep praying. Remember, the biggest problem is going to be not the hard targets, but the soft targets hundreds of miles away. They had a bombing in Volgograd a month ago, which was 400 miles away, and those are the softer targets that will be easier for the Chechens.
Hey, Doc, real quickly, and just before we get to Syria, because that's the mainline topic of the soup of the year so far, but can you break down the major players real quickly for me? Because it's such a fluid situation. Who's pissed at who in Sochi right now? The Russians don't want the rebels. Well, you explain all the moving parts to me.
Well, the shortest answer is these black widows are wives of some terrorists that were jailed or killed, and basically the Chechens have for long wanted to have been part of the Iron Curtain that had been released, and they were never given independence. Russia kept them because of the oil that was in Chechnya, and as a result, the Chechens have been separatists, wanting to separate, and created these militant groups that are Al-Qaeda-like. They're Sunni radicals, so they've had some synergy with Al-Qaeda, but been separate from them. And because of the proximity to Syria, Chechnya has taken on the war against Assad. The Muslims there have been siding against Russia as a result. And a lot of the terror from Beslan on have come from the militants in Chechnya and many of the Caucasus, which are riddled with radical Islam that the Saudis and others of the Sunni militant ideology have been spreading into that region over the past 10 to 20 years.
So they want to be separate. So for Putin to come in and showcase Russia with an Olympics right in their face is kind of poking the bear, as they say, right?
Exactly. They want attention. This isn't about necessarily, you may argue that Hezbollah, other militant Shiites wouldn't want to embarrass Russia, but what's happening is they just want global attention. So the Sunnis may, both the West and the Russians are targets from both sides of this conflict, and you never know what's going to happen. They just want global attention.
All right, let's move it over to Syria. We're talking to Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. He is the founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, a good man and a great friend of the show, author of A Battle for the Soul of Islam, an American Muslim patriot's fight to save his faith. And you can follow Dr. Jasser, by the way, on Twitter at Dr. Zuhdi, Zuhdi Jasser. So there's a peace conference that began over the weekend at the UN headquarters in Geneva, and the goal is bringing a peaceful resolution to the ongoing violence in Syria. Is it just... quite frankly, we're giving them more time, as the old whimsy says, to reload at this point?
It's crazy beyond no doubt. I mean, this Geneva too. I mean, it is literally like the old movie Groundhog Day. I mean, for 3 years we keep doing the same thing now, thinking that we're going to get different results, and there's nothing. I mean, the talks opened. Kerry insisted, well, just get in one room together. Initially, they almost invited Iran, and which would have been a bigger joke to have one of the primary countries keeping Assad not only financially but militarily and with soldiers in power. And the talks are really just a waste of time. There's no political solution. There is basically it's just more hand-wringing while he shifts from using chemicals to using barrel-busting bombs that are spraying nails and other things that would kill as many people as possible. We're over 130,000 dead. 2,000 have died just in the last week as they were talking about Geneva too. So it's really embarrassing, I think, not only to the UN but the United States that keeps putting any credence. I mean, the first speech given by the foreign minister at the Geneva II conference was just bizarre in how he was scolding them, calling his people across the table, the opposition, calling them terrorists and other things, which is just a colossal waste of time.
Yeah, listen, like his father, Assad is a horrific man, probably a sociopath, certainly a malevolent dictator, and but to think that he and the rebels have anything in common would be to say he's even crazier than I think he is. They only exist for one reason: oxygen in the backdraft to kill him, right?
Absolutely. And, the answer is the majority of Syrians. There's 23 million, 5 million displaced now. There's a majority that are on neither side of this. They wouldn't be, the guys meeting at the UN are what we call the Hotel Coalition. They're not the ones that would take over Syria after Assad. The ones that would are in the neighborhoods hiding out right now and trying to stay alive. And ultimately, the rebels are losing because they're not getting any support from the West. And the ones that are getting support are getting it from Saudi Arabia and Qatar, which are going to be helping more of the Islamists. So I still am a cup half full on this, thinking that ultimately there will be a third pathway for the Syrians, separate from radical Sunni Islam and separate from the fascism of Assad, who's working with Iran. But if anything, the statement against Iran and sort of the Cold War that Russia thinks hasn't ended and is still using for influence in their only port, which is in Syria. At some point, I hope Kerry and Obama wake up to the opportunities we're losing and how the map of the Middle East come next president is going to be very different if we don't try to at least help some of the folks that would be on our side as far as freedom.
It's a mess, and Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, a good man who always points out the pertinent players in I would say game, but it's too heartbreaking in the situation over there. Thank you, Dr. Jasser. We appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for covering this, Dennis. Appreciate it. Take care.